Welcome to the podcast. It's the magical holidays. Time for Joe watching 60 Christmas movies in 60 days. Why, you might ask? Because it sounds like a crazy task to be watching 60 Christmas movies in 60 days. It'll be struggle, no I won't lie. By the halfway point I will lose my mind, but with your support I'm gonna be fine. So let's have a blast on this Christmas time. Join me now and let's find out about today's Christmas movie. Was it good or bad? Happy or sad? Is there another dead mom and dad? Let's get to it with no delay. It's your old pal Joe and he's happy to say welcome to Joe watches 60 Christmas movies in 60 days.
How's it going, everybody? It's me, it's your old pal Joe, and welcome to episode 15 of Joe watches 60 Christmas movies in 60 days. 15! We're at the 25% mark. Isn't that incredible? We were at the 20% mark just a couple of days ago, but now we're at 25. It's passing by so fast, and yet not fast at all, because each one of these podcasts represents a movie that is at least 80 minutes long. 80 minutes every time! Plus a podcast, which can range, at least this season, I've gotten my stuff together. The podcasts are lasting like 45 minutes of recording time, maybe an hour of recording time. And it's just so much time. What was I thinking? I have, today, we have an easy movie to talk about. There's nothing that's going to get in the way of talking about this movie. There's no hard bits. There's no confusing bits. It's pretty straightforward. But before we talk about today's movie, let's talk instead about our good friends at Third Eye Comics. As I've mentioned many times, let's see, kind of 14 times so far this year, Third Eye Comics is the sponsor of Season 4 of Joe Watches 60 Christmas Movies in 60 Days. And honestly, I couldn't ask for a better partner to help out get this series made. It's hard to pay to host a daily podcast. It's hard. It is hard, especially when you're struggling financially. So, yeah, it's been great to have them help out, and so I'm going to do all I can to get some attention in their direction. So if you're listening to this and you want to buy a comic, a graphic novel, maybe something to do with gaming, board game, new role-playing game, new equipment, new miniatures, dice, or maybe you want to buy a movie or some music. Well, any of those things you can find at shop.thirdeyecomics.com. While I can't guarantee that you'll get something you like, I can guarantee that you'll get it in a way that will be very pleasing and it'll arrive safe and sound and in quick order. So, it's up to you what you pick out. If you want any recommendations, reach out to me on social media at JOEMOC on Twitter, Instagram, and a few other places. And I will get you a proper recommendation. It'll be something good that you will enjoy. But until I hear from you, again, it's all on you, what you buy. Let's talk about today's movie, Holiday for Hire. This movie it's fine, but there are some bits of it that I'm going to get really mad at recounting. I'm not joking. There's some bits in this movie that don't make any sense, and it's going to make me very mad. The movie starts in a very snowy city. Is it New York? Probably. I don't know. We cut to a meeting room where a team celebrates hitting 1 million likes for the year. This is a social media company, and there's some new promotion that they've been running that has garnered most of these likes. We focus on our main character, Katie. She mentions how sales are up 19% for the year. Sales for the company, I guess. I can't tell if she means sales for the product or sales for the company. Regardless, it's been a great year. She also met Dean that year, who is a very pent-up office man who is very dismissive of these accomplishments, and also her boyfriend. He works there, and he's just a huge dick. And not even like a hidden dick, There's no underwear to cover this dick. He's just a huge asshole, and it's not even like he's good early and then reveals himself to be bad. He's annoying throughout his entire existence in this movie, including at this part when he is her boyfriend. Katie calls her mom to break the big professional news, and her mom is overjoyed. Her mom is also excited to have her daughter Katie bring home Dean for Christmas this year. Her other daughter, Julia, Katie's sister, is married, and so she's come with her husband. They've been married a few years at this point. But the mom mentions how Katie has never brought a boyfriend home. And so to have the both of them with somebody that they love, couldn't make mom happier. She even made Dean a stocking just for himself. We cut to a Christmas party that night at the company where Dean breaks the news that he's actually been transferred to San Francisco. So he thinks that they should break up. And she's very confused. And he goes, wait, you're being transferred? He goes, well, I applied for a position in San Francisco. You applied for a position, you didn't tell me. And yeah, they've accepted it. And she goes, well, maybe I should apply too? She goes, oh, sorry, there's just one position. So yeah, I think we should break up. She goes, but you don't have to leave until the new year. And he says, yeah, I just think it'd be easier if we break up now. When he explains all this at the beginning about breaking up, she just shouts, what? In the middle of the party, causing everyone to look at them. She talks about how she thought they were partners. And he goes, we were very successful partners, but now it's time for us to go our separate ways. It'll be great for both of us. Katie, though, doesn't agree. We cut to Katie sharing her pain with her buddy Sarah. They're roommates. Sarah says it'll be all right. So what if you show up alone? It's Christmas. She says, yeah, but my mom made Dean a stocking. There'll be a Dean stocking, but no Dean. They laugh at this ridiculousness. But then Sarah gets an idea. Have your parents or sister ever seen Dean before? No, they haven't, actually. Then she shows her a website called worknow.com. It's a freelance website where people post odd jobs, and other people can, submit to take the opportunity to do those odd jobs. Katie could post about her need for someone to pose as a boyfriend. Sarah's seen posts like that on there before, so it's not unheard of. Sarah even writes the post for her, urgently seeking fake boyfriend for family holiday. She also mentions it's because of a sudden breakup. And as part of the description, we find out Katie is a karaoke fiend. She also adds some other details, like the job will cover 3 days in the countryside, and other bits that don't really matter. Katie, who's very sad, heads off to bed, as Sarah hurriedly adds more to the description once Katie's gone. The next morning, Katie is awoken by a phone call by a guy ready to be her Dean. She rushes out to find Sarah waiting for her. She said, I promised, I told the people no phone calls. And I thought, okay, you may have told the people to not call and instead to submit electronically. But you're the one that put her phone number somewhere. The easy way to ensure that there's no phone calls is not to include a phone number. Or, if you want to manage this so bad, Sarah, include your phone number. Katie says that she thought this whole thing was just a joke. She didn't think Sarah was really going to post it. Sarah says, but I did. And not only did I really post it, but I've spent the morning going through potential candidates. What can it hurt to do some interviews? Katie thinks about it and goes, not much, I guess. We cut to them at a coffee shop ready for their interviews. The first guy complains that Katie doesn't look anything like her photo. He also hopes that they can delay leaving by a day because he's still waiting on someone to watch his iguana. And they have him say this as if having an iguana is the craziest thing you can think of. Like it's the sign of someone who is subpar in life. Ew, he has an iguana? And it just seems so, old-fashioned comedy. It's hard to explain. The second guy is a germaphobe. He's also still getting over a breakup which occurred a few years ago. And they make a big deal about that. Like, oh my God, he's getting over a breakup from a few years ago? And also he's a germaphobe, so that's obviously bad. The third guy is a bit too laid back. He's kind of California surfer cool. And he explains that he's really only in this for a place to crash for a bit. The last guy is way too emotional. He loves Christmas and people at Christmas and Christmas candles and Christmas trees, and you get the drift. We rotate between the guys and end with the ladies determining that it was a complete bust. But then a new guy walks in, and he's so dreamy. Soft music even plays as he walks. His name is Josh. Katie is immediately into him. They ask why he replied to the post, and he goes, well, I don't really have any family. Usually Christmas is just me and my mom, but she passed away this year. I just didn't want to spend Christmas alone. Plus, he thought the job sounded kind of fun. As long as Katie's not a psycho. Katie laughs, but laughs too hard, and Sarah gets her to take it down a notch. The next question is about social media. Katie and her ex both worked for a social media company, so it's important to see what Josh knows about it. And he goes, well, I'm a carpenter by trade, but I do run an account for an anthropomorphic football during football season. So he runs an account for a talking football. And that ties in perfectly because Katie just worked on a social media program for a hamburger that talked. And they worked together without knowing it because there was the program also involved the football. I don't understand this. This seemed like an unnecessary addition to the storyline, even though it only takes 30 seconds in the movie. It confused me because I'm wondering, well, what's the purpose of this? Are we going to find out like they secretly know each other, or they've known each other for a while, or that this is some kind of harbinger of them being a perfect match? Not really, no. This is just a weird coincidence that they play up for a second and then drop. Regardless, they are tickled that they know each other, even if it's just through icons on a social media site. They ask if he's good at charades. We find out Katie's family plays it every year, and it can get pretty serious. And then I thought, why does it matter if he's good at charades? You just got to wonder if he's willing to play charades. If he's willing to play it, that's enough. You don't need to be good at charades to play charades. Or is her family going to be like, are you good enough to play charades? You're not? Then just get the fuck out of here, guy. We don't want you around here if you're not good. I don't care if you want to have fun. This guy Josh has some questions for Katie as well. Why does she need someone to pose as a boyfriend? Why couldn't you just tell your family that you broke up? She says, I can't face that right now. I've been the single sister for years, and I've never even brought a boyfriend home. He thinks she might be a little crazy, Josh does. But so is he, since he responded. They laugh. And he is hired. Josh is going to be the new dean. She gives him the details on the trip, and they plan to meet later. Sarah is pleased that her plan worked out. She asks Katie, do you think he's better than the real dean? Katie isn't sure. Well, at least he hasn't taken a secret job in San Francisco yet. Cut to Josh picking her up the next day. They are ready to go. Road trip montage. On the way, Josh brushes up on the details of Katie's family, their name, etc. Eventually they arrive, and the parents are so happy to meet Katie's boyfriend, Dean. Katie's mom says off to the side, he's even cuter than you described. Katie takes Josh to his room, which actually was her old room when she still lived at home, while she'll be taking the room next to her parents. Something to do with she's going to sacrifice because her dad snores loud. In her room, he notices a lot of boy band posters on the wall and points them out. One of them is for a group called Side Road Boys, and I like that name a lot. It's the Side Road Boys. What does that mean? I guess instead of Backstreet? I just figured that out. Instead of Backstreet. Whatever, Side Road Boys is funny on its own. It doesn't even need the Backstreet connection. Side Road Boys. What are you kids up to? Are you just a bunch of side road boys? Anyway, he also gives her a hard time about all of her pink junk, but it's in a fun way. They get along really well. He notices a little keepsake box. When he picks it up, the lid comes off completely. She goes, oh, it's been broken for a long time. But the thing is, guys, that keepsake box is made out of wood. And do you know who's good with wood? Carpenters. And do you know who is a carpenter? Josh, fake Dean, is a carpenter. As he settles in, he expresses that he's genuinely happy to be there. And now it's dinner time. We get to meet Julia and her husband, Richard. That Julia is Katie's sister. We then cut to Josh telling the story about how he met Katie. And he talks about how it was at work, and he was late for a meeting, and he walked in, and it was just Katie there. And he asked what happened to the meeting, and he found out he was late because he hadn't set his watch to match the time change, whatever. Turns out all of this is fake, and he's just making it up on the fly, which doesn't make any sense because you don't need to make that stuff up. You think they would have planned ahead, or you would have copied how they really met. And this is one of the first times I had a real problem with this movie because it makes Josh seem like an idiot to be adding so many details when he doesn't have to. You can tell how nervous Katie is as he talks and talks and talks. But then he screws up a detail about whether she had an office or not. He mentioned how he went to her office, and her sister's like, but I thought you didn't have an office. Then it was an open floor plan. And Katie had to lie and say, I had an office because they were fumigating our normal workspace. So there was a short time where I had an office. Josh can't stop talking, and Katie is really not happy about it. She gets him to join her in the kitchen. She tells him to cut down on some of the embellishment. And it's not embellishment. It's not like saying, I got a ride, and then you're saying, yeah, I got a ride in a limo. No, he's making up the fact that there was a ride at all. And that's just stupid. Her mom comes in and says it's time for charades. She asks Dean if he knows how to play, and he says, I know how to play. I love charades. I love it. When she leaves, he admits he hasn't played it since he was a kid. Katie is surprised and tries to bring him up to speed. And again, why would he lie about this? Just say, yeah, I know how to play. You could even say, I don't know how to play. I know that's controversial in this day and age to say you don't know how to play charades. But that could have been a solution in this moment where he simply said, I don't know how to play. We cut to him doing a terrible job of acting out an answer. This is literally the one thing that Katie and Sarah told him was important. And you would think he might have spent any time researching the game of charades. I thought it was ridiculous when they brought up charades. Turns out you needed to, because he's going to go along with the stupid lie about loving it, but then not actually be any good at it at all. We see Katie and her sister take a turn, and they're amazing. They're just nailing every answer, so they are a well-oiled machine. This leads to the sisters talking on their own about new Dean, a.k.a. Josh. Julia says it's nice to see Katie with someone, and then she mentions in passing that her husband got a promotion. So then Katie says Dean also got a promotion? And is moving to San, but then she catches herself. Oh, wait, no, I can't tell her that Dean's moving to San Francisco. She says he's moving to sandwiches. He's moving to sandwiches. No more burgers for him. And her sister goes, sandwiches? Is that a promotion? And that's when I wrote in my notes, why did she lie about a promotion? You don't have to have a promotion. This doesn't make any sense. The movie wants to drive home that there's a competitiveness between Katie and Julia. And it's really just competitiveness on the behalf of Katie. And it doesn't make any sense, especially in this case, when she's hanging by a thread with the immense lie that she's already perpetrating. Why would you have to say anything about him getting a promotion? That doesn't matter. As I mentioned, Julia's confused about how sandwiches is somehow a promotion from burgers and says, aren't they kind of the same thing? It's supposed to be funny. I just got annoyed. To change the subject later on, because it continues on and other people join in the conversation, to change the subject, Katie's dad asks about Josh's family. Katie starts to say he's sad because of his mom, but then changes the story to saying he's sad to be without actual Dean's family, because I guess she talked about the family Dean had, and she can't say that Dean's mom died. I don't know. This is really dumb to me, and I started getting very, very annoyed. Katie gets a check-in call from Sarah, which leaves Josh alone with Katie's mom. Katie's mom talks about how happy he apparently makes Katie and how appreciative she is that he came. She also talks about how happy he is to be there, which is the second or third time we've seen him express gratitude for simply being at this holiday gathering. Over talking to Sarah, Katie suggests that maybe this could lead to a real relationship with Josh, but Katie dismisses it, even though we can tell she's kind of into it. Katie finishes her call and rescues Josh from her mom, causing her mom to go to bed. Katie and Josh talk for a bit, and he again mentions how happy he is to be there. Katie is surprised. Really? He can't shut the fuck up about it, Katie. How can you be surprised? He says it's the best Christmas he's had since his mom passed away. The best, Josh? Sorry, the best movie writers? The best? It's the only one. And if you're wondering whether I misremembered, maybe my notes are incorrect. No, my friends. I rewound the movie to the scene earlier when he says that his mom has passed away and this was his first Christmas without his mom. So why, in all of their wisdom, did the screenwriters decide to have him say that this is the best Christmas since his mom died? They completely lost the plot here. And what's even worse is in a few moments, they're going to have him talk about how it's the first Christmas since his mom died. This motherfucker said the best. I was livid. I'm not even joking. I was so mad at this point. I just want to watch this movie in peace. I just want to take minimal notes so I have minimal to say, because I'm tired of talking so much every single gosh darn day. But this movie just has to fuck it up. It just has to say something stupid. And I have to be able to, I got to look. I got to see if they really said something stupid. And they did. So then I got to write it down in my notes. I got to write more notes. And I just got so mad. I'm getting worked up now talking about something that is a couple of hours old. And that's ridiculous, Joe. Come on, man. Get your shit together. And yet, I'm still mad. Anyway, he talks about he and his mom's traditions. One of them was you could only give homemade gifts. They never really had a lot of money, and his mom always said giving a homemade gift lets you give a piece of yourself. Katie thinks that sounds really nice. Cut to the next morning. Katie wakes up very happy, cheerily putting her slippers on. She goes down to check on Josh in his room, a.k.a. her older room, but he's not there. Instead, he's in the kitchen hanging with the family. When she joins them, we find out they're telling embarrassing stories about Katie. We also find out that there's a big family football game. And it's explained that, we have a big football game. And then Julia, Katie's sister, and Katie's mom both say, and we'll be watching it all off the sidelines. And I'm like, okay, fine. So not everybody plays in the football game. But who else is going to be in this football game? Nobody. No one else. The football game contains 4 players. It is Katie and Josh, a.k.a. New Dean, versus Katie's dad and Katie's brother-in-law. 4 people. And they play this game every year. But here's the problem, people. Who plays in the game last year? Who played in the game last year? Because if they play this every year and Katie never brings a boyfriend home, how did the game occur last year? Was Julia in the game? Maybe. Probably. We'll say probably. And I shouldn't be this annoyed by it. But this movie has done nothing to earn my trust. It has done absolutely zilch to earn my trust. Anyway, we get a football game montage. Josh and Katie win big. Cut to Katie's dad showing off photos of younger Katie to Josh and endears her even more to Josh. Her dad then says, I think you're good for Katie. Normally during the holidays, she's so stressed while trying to make sure everything goes correctly, but this year she's been so relaxed and happy. And I, again, have to call bullshit on this movie because of the scenes I've seen. Yes, she's enjoying his company, and yes, she's having a good time, but she's also lying to her entire family about a relationship that does not exist and has a stranger that she has only known for 2 days living in this house with her family. How can that be a stress-free environment? I ask you, how can that be stress-free? And then he says, I haven't seen her this happy since... And then he stops himself. Well, we're just happy you're here, Dean. And I was like, well, what is this? What are they talking about? And eventually her mom kind of lets slip that she's not Katie's birth mom. That she married her dad after she was already born, after Julia and Katie were already born. And so the implication, I guess, is that her mom passed away at some point. And that means that she hasn't had a happy Christmas since then, but everybody else has? What about you, Dad? It was your wife, apparently. You're implying that it was something to do with your wife passing away, and you're okay? None of this matters, but I'm so annoyed at this movie. Josh asks Katie's dad for a favor. Before we can see what it is, we cut to Katie chatting with her family, minus Dean and Dad. Dean, I'm sorry if it's confusing. Dean is new Dean, a.k.a. Josh. This gets Katie's mom to talk about the first time she met Katie's dad. This is where we learn that the mom is not Katie's birth mom, and apparently this is what Dad was referring to when he said we haven't seen Katie this happy since ... Sorry, I didn't mean to explain it twice, but it's in my notes and I'm too tired to read ahead. We cut to dinner. Everyone has just finished eating, and Julia suggests that they have a dessert circle. What is a dessert circle? Well, it's something that she and her husband picked up from his family. Everyone goes around and explains what they're grateful for today. Julia's husband says that the best part of every day is waking up next to Julia. And Julia says the best part of her day is getting to sleep next to her husband. Aww. Mom says that the best part of her day is getting to spend time with her girls during Christmas. And they're the people and the other people that they care so much about. Dad says, I second that. He doesn't have an answer of his own. Fake Dean, a.k.a. Josh, says he's grateful that they've opened their homes to him and made him feel like family. He's also grateful he met Katie. She's the best. Now it's Katie's turn, and she thinks for a second, and then says, cheers, and she gives a salutation, or whatever you want to say, and, raises her glass, and everybody just goes along with it. Nobody calls her out that she didn't say something she was grateful for. And how is that a dessert circle? How is that a dessert circle? There was no dessert on their plates. Later that night, Fake Dean, a.k.a. Josh, finds Katie checking the presents under the tree. She says she was trying to figure out what Julia got her. She doesn't want it to be better than what she got for Julia, an engraved calligraphy set. Dean again talks about how much he appreciates having a place to be for Christmas. This is the 80th time he's mentioned that. The next morning, Katie comes down and again finds Josh not in his room, but his luggage is on the bed. She snoops around and spies a ring box. She opens it, and sure enough, there's a ring in there. She tries it on and it fits perfectly. But then Fake Dean, a.k.a. Josh, enters, and she tries to hide the fact that she tried the ring on behind her back. But then she can't get it off, so she has to complain that she tried it on, and he was like, oh, wow, I'm just glad it wasn't missing. I thought something bad had happened to it. It's my mom's ring, actually. I just brought it with me to get cleaned. You brought it with you on a trip to get cleaned? You're going away for 3 days with a stranger, to stay in a stranger's house, to pretend to be their boyfriend. And you brought your mom's ultra-valuable, even if it's just because it belongs to your mom, ultra-valuable ring along in case what? You could get it cleaned while you're in a strange town for 3 days? Doesn't make any sense. They try to get the ring off, but it's stuck. Fake Dean even gets down on one knee to yank it off, and that's just when Katie's mom walks in and sees him down on one knee, a ring on Katie's finger, and oh boy, she screams. She thinks her daughter's been proposed to. Uh-oh. The whole family joins in, and everybody celebrates. Katie is finally... Well, they don't say finally. Katie is finally engaged. Katie's mom then asks, upon seeing what she thinks is the culmination of her proposal, and says, do you have a date? And look, I've never been engaged, so maybe this is on me. Maybe this is an area of my life where I lack the proper experience and shouldn't be speaking out of turn. But if I propose to someone because I love them and I want to marry them, I want to spend the rest of my life, whatever, I propose to them. I can see having an understanding that this is a probable next step for you as a couple. I can even see talking about what sort of proposal this person might enjoy. You don't want everything to be ruined. You do want some surprise. But I could see talking about it. I cannot see talking about all that and also setting a date before the proposal has been made so that this mom comes in and goes, have you set a date? It's been 3 minutes. Have you set a date? Anyway, Katie's mom goes off to call everybody that they know. Katie's sister Julia, though, has a weird look on her face, like she suspects something is not right. Everyone gathers in the living room. Someone asks Dean why he decided to propose then. He tells a story about his mom and how she'd always say, Josh, and it throws everyone off because that's not his name. And he goes, Josh, that was her nickname for me. She would say, Josh, Take action when you know what you want. Something to that effect. Katie's mom declares it the best Christmas ever. Fake Dean, a.k.a. Josh, hugs Katie, and Katie's now unsure of how things are going because he seems very clingy. But this never pays off. I thought maybe we were taking a turn to where he was going to become too attached to her for her liking, and then they would have to figure some way out of this. There was going to be that sort of turn. No. This scene where he hugs her and she makes a face, it's just, I guess, her, I don't know, figuring out that she likes him. I don't know. We cut to Katie and Julia decorating the Christmas tree. Julia asks if Dean makes Katie happy. Katie says, I think so, which is a great answer. The family then make plans for the Christmas Eve day. It's still daytime. Dad and Julia's husband are going to go Christmas shopping. Julia and Mom are going to cook. This leaves Katie and Dean alone, which Katie seems less and less sure about. She keeps saying, well, I could help cook, or I can help do this. And they're like, no, why don't you just hang out with Dean and show him around town? And she doesn't seem to want to do that, but eventually she just gives in, and that's what she's going to do. She's going to show fake Dean, a.k.a. Josh, around her hometown. We join them mid-tour. He thinks the place is great, but Katie is less positive. Coming back home just reminds her of everything she hasn't accomplished yet. Hell, she doesn't even have a boyfriend that she didn't hire off the internet. He tries her to get to look at things from a different perspective. She has a job she loves. She has a great roommate. And, there's other good things. I don't know. He said other good things. Whatever. And that's when he mentions that he's alone for the first time this Christmas. And I write in my notes, how dare they go back to his mom dying this year. Anyway, he says he would give anything to have such a wonderful family like Katie does. This all seems to help Katie take a new look on her situation. She asks about his mom. Did they have any sort of traditions? Now, we've already talked a little bit about their traditions, but we're asking more about traditions. And he said, caroling, baking, sitting in front of the tree, looking at the lights. She goes, you know what? I think we should do something your mom would have loved. He says, well, how do you feel about eggnog? And she says, I know just the place. Cut to them in a restaurant or a bar, but it also has pool tables, drinking eggnog. There are no customers in this place and a lone bartender at a bar way in the back. They talk about their teen years. Katie tells a story about getting in trouble with Julia for throwing a party. Julia could have let Katie take the fall, but she didn't. This makes fake Dean, a.k.a. Josh, say, it doesn't sound like the Julia that you've been describing. And Katie's confused. What do you mean? He says, well, you make it always sound like you're hyper-competitive, but maybe you guys aren't. And this makes Katie rethink things. Me, though, Joe, watching these movies, I hate Josh, a.k.a. Fake Dean now. He's so know-it-all and self-righteous. He's the worst. Nobody can just have feelings. They have to defend their feelings. Oh, I don't know. My sister always makes me feel bad about things. Oh, really? Does she make you feel bad, or do you make you feel bad? I mean, that's a good point. I guess I'm not happy with where I'm at in life. Oh, you're not happy with that where you're at in life? My mom died. You could have a dead mom on your hands. How does that make you feel, Katie? And that's what it feels like most of this movie is. Katie's roommate, Sarah, calls for an update. So then she takes the call off to the side. Katie mentions how they're engaged now, but then says it's a long story. She then talks so much, she could have just told the story instead of saying it was a long story and then talking and talking and talking. Sarah again suggests that it would be super cool if they wound up together, but Katie's even more steadfast that it can't happen. How could she ever explain things to her family? But then Katie gets another call. It's Original Dean. Original Recipe Dean. He wants to talk. She cuts him off and thinks it's best if they don't talk right now. She hangs up just as he was getting ready to say that he is in town. Of course he is. Katie rejoins fake Dean, a.k.a. Josh. He's the real Josh, talking to the bartender. He explains how the bartender is bummed because he has to work on Christmas Eve and is missing out on time with his family. This gives Dean an idea to cheer him up. He nods toward a piano and a microphone, and somehow Katie knows what he means. He wants her to sing karaoke since it was in her ad. And it's for his mom, after all, Dean's mom. They then sing the 12 Days of Christmas with new lyrics, and it's immediate. He sits at the piano and goes, on the first day of Christmas, my true love gave to me a partner for karaoke, something to that effect. You got me? And then she does the second day, and she immediately has lyrics for that as well. And I thought, well, that's kind of silly. Then we cut to them singing with the bartender the 12 Days of Christmas. So here are the 12 Days of Christmas as sang by this trio. On the 12th day of Christmas, my true love gave to me 12 congratulations. Then 11 Christmas cookies. Then 10 empty bar stools. And you can tell which one the bartender sings. 9 bus burger tweets. And this is that ad campaign that Julia was a part of. 8 perfect pancakes. $7 in tips. Again, the bartender. 6 bad charade clues. 5 other things. 4 Christmas presents. 3 lame shifts. 2 eggnogs. And a partner in karaoke. The bartender thanks them. It says that singing that made his day. Then Josh gives him a big tip and says no one should make $7 in tips on Christmas Eve. The bartender really appreciates it. Outside, Katie is really touched by Josh's action. She thinks his mom would be really proud. They get back to the house, but then real Dean walks up. What is he doing there? He says, I've made a huge mistake. Katie agrees, you shouldn't be here. Katie's dad then comes out and asks what's going on. Josh tells him, oh, she just ran into an old friend. And that's enough for Dad to go back inside. Katie sends Josh inside to stall for her as she takes care of Dean outside, which only equates to him saying, I made a mistake and I miss you. And she says, well, we just broke up 48 hours ago. So that's kind of weird that you missed me already. And he goes, I thought you might bring that up, the whole breakup thing. Well, yeah. But then he gets really pushy to the point where he's even more unlikable and says he won't leave until we have a chance to talk. And when he says it, he starts yelling, until we have a chance to talk. And he says it really loud as if he wants her family to hear, which implies a sense of him knowing that she doesn't want her family to see him and him thinking that if he forces them to see him, it'll somehow work out in his favor. None of that makes any sense. It also doesn't make this character likable at all. She finally agrees to talk to him later and directs him to a hotel he can stay at downtown. She'll be in touch. Back inside, Katie arrives and Julia immediately asks what the big deal is. Josh says, she was getting a last-minute gift. Why did he change the lie? He could have just said she ran into an old friend outside. I don't know who it was. Because he wouldn't know who it was. He's new in town. He's new to any of these people. He could have kept the same lie he already started. And yet this idiot and these writers decide to have him make another bad lie so that we can get a scene where he and Katie screw up the lie back and forth before eventually Julia just says, you guys are weird. Katie says she needs to talk to Sarah, and we cut to them talking about this whole mess. Sarah says, do you want to get back with original Dean? No. Maybe. I'm not sure. Katie decides that she's going to tell Dean, the original Dean, to go back home, and then they can talk when she gets back. Then she tries to go off to meet Dean. When she opens the door, though, guess who's standing there? It's original Dean. And guess who else is behind Katie? It's her mom. So when she slams the door in Dean's face, her mom's like, wait, who was that outside? And Katie's like, oh, nobody. It's just somebody. They had the wrong address. She's making up lies on the spot. But her mom reaches around her and opens the door. And it's like, hello? And he says, Katie says, oh, this is just a work colleague. And the first thing her mom says is, oh, you must know Dean. And Dean says, I am Dean. He goes in for a big hug on Katie's mom and then invites himself in. We then cut to the family unraveling the entire mystery. Her dad goes, so you're Dean? And you're not Dean? Pointing at each guy, and they both nod. Julia says she knew something was up, and Katie, she comes clean. She apologizes. She says she simply didn't want to come home alone for Christmas, so she hired someone. When the fake engagement gets brought up, Dean has a question for her. He says, wait, you're engaged? And she goes, no, it was a misunderstanding. And he goes, okay, good, because I have a question for you. He immediately pulls out a ring, drops to one knee, and says, will you marry me? And he says it in the least romantic way possible. Katie doesn't answer, instead says she needs air, and she goes outside. Her mom joins her. Her mom says, I don't understand. If you and Dean broke up, why didn't you just come home alone? And Katie says, because I was so excited, so you were so excited to meet Dean. I didn't want Christmas ruined for you. And her mom says, that's not needed. She just wants her daughter to find someone who makes her happy. And this talk goes on forever. Eventually, Katie's mom says there's only one way to fix a mess, and that's by cleaning it up. So Katie pulls Dean aside for a chat. Dean explains that, look, I don't have to move after all. I got them to let me work remote. And also, I realized something. We really are partners, and I don't know what I'd do without you. We're meant to be together. And with that, he goes in for a kiss. Just as Josh walks in, he sees them kissing, and he immediately walks out. Katie doesn't notice that Josh walked in, so she ends the kiss anyway and says, look, you were right. And he goes, oh, great, I'm right. And he goes, no, you were right when you said we needed to break up. She runs down a list of reasons why it was a good idea. For example, he proposed without talking about it with her ahead of time. He took a job without telling her about it ahead of time. All kinds of stuff like that. She's had a chance to spend time with someone who doesn't need her for his job. He asked her questions. He asked her what she likes. Ultimately, she says, it's over between us. She returns and tells her mom the big news. The rest of the family gathers around and they're relieved. None of them liked Dean. They think he was the absolute worst. That's when she asks where Josh is, and they mention that he left. The family offers to help look for him, but she refuses. It's her responsibility. She's the one that ruined everything. She returns to her old room and finds a gift waiting for her on the bed. This was apparently set up maybe before Josh found out the truth, or what he thinks is the truth. I don't know. But it's a wrapped gift, and inside is the repaired keepsake box. And there's a note explaining that her dad let him use his tools, and he wishes her a Merry Christmas. Katie cries. She calls Sarah to ask for help, and Sarah tells her not to worry. She's sure things will turn around. And I thought, oh, maybe Sarah has heard from Josh somehow, and she's going to help fix this. Nope. It's just a character being confident. When she hangs up with Sarah, in walks her sister Julia. Katie asks if she's there to gloat, which is such a weird thing to say to your sibling when you've had a terrible thing happen to you yourself. Julia's confused. Why would I gloat? And Katie goes, because you're the golden child, and I'm an embarrassment to the family. Again, Julia is still really confused. She says, I've always looked up to you. You moved to the big city, and you're living your dreams. I was always so impressed with how brave you were. Eventually they come to an understanding and a hug. But what can they do about Josh? Julia says, I can tell you're crazy about him. We need to find him. But where could he be? Every place is closed on Christmas Eve. But then Katie has an idea. We're back at the bar. Josh is very sad. He's drinking eggnog after eggnog. In walks Katie. She apologizes. He says it's okay. He's sorry that he came between her and Dean. And she explains that there is no her and Dean. She had it all wrong. It wasn't about Dean. It wasn't about having a perfect boyfriend. The last 2 days, she got to spend time with someone that she likes and who likes her back. And she understands if Josh can't forgive her, but she won't be able to forgive herself if she lets Josh spend Christmas alone. Her family especially won't be happy with her if that happens. Josh appreciates that, but he won't stay there for her family. He will stay for Katie, though. He really likes her. Katie kisses him. The bartender proclaims it the best Christmas ever. We then cut back to them being at the house, where we see some presents get exchanged, and Josh and Katie kiss again, and it's the end. This movie really annoyed me, and that's all I have to say about that. Who was the MVP in this movie? Sarah, the roommate. She was fun enough, I guess. The main character, Katie, it's nothing like the actress did anything terrible or the character. It was just that I just didn't like this movie at all, not even a little bit. So I'm going to pick a side character that at least brought me some joy at different times during the movie, a.k.a. Sarah the roommate. So that's it. That's it for movie number 15. Thanks for listening. We're 1/4 of the way through, and I couldn't have done it without you. That's not true. I'm doing this on my own. But hopefully you're along for the ride, at least listening and having a good time listening to me fall apart at the seams day by day, week by week. Until next time, take care, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.